think we're live. Awesome. Well, excited for this session, podcast recording, whatever you want to call it. But thanks for joining us, you guys. Maybe we'll do a quick intro, and then we can take it from there. Maybe Sreeram, then Sean. You guys can go.
Yeah.
Hey, hi everybody. I'm Sreeram, founder of Eigen Labs. Really excited to be here with Sean and Nima to chat today.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Sean. I'm the co-founder of Magic Labs, also building Newton. And excited to be here. I've been looking forward to this for some time.
Great, thanks. So maybe to kick it off, let's start with where did your vision for building in crypto first start? Sreeram, take it away.
Yeah, before Bitcoin, there was still peer-to-peer networks, and actually, like my master's and PhD was in peer-to-peer wireless networks. How do you create wireless networks without any infrastructure? So always super interested in this area, but that never took off. Like, there was enough infrastructure all around the world that you didn't need peer-to-peer, no infrastructure wireless networks. So moved out from that to go work on computational genomics. And in 2017, 2018, had this, as Bitcoin was kind of like back in, public interest, my PhD advisor from my peer-to-peer days called me and said, Shyam, have you heard of this Bitcoin thing? It's, it's a peer-to-peer network. It's super interesting. And I'm like, no, I'm not getting into a speculative bubble. I'm working on genomics here. Actually, I had the opportunity to write work with some really good people in computational genomics. Last year, David Baker got a Nobel Prize in chemistry. So I was a co-author with him on, a paper trying to analyze how these AI works. But I was doing that. So I was like, no, there's no way I'm going to go work on some coin that. But and then I realized that basically the human speciality is cooperation, coordination, and the friction to coordination is trust. So to the extent you upgrade trust, you're upgrading like the basic rails on which humans coordinate. It's a massive advantage. So that became like my kind of driving thesis, at Eigen, Nima knows this well, of course, that our vision is to build humanity's coordination engine. And so that's where we come from. So super excited to see, some of our original theses starting to play out, not just for ourselves, right, for the entire space. That, the fact that you systems are trustless, verifiable, self-enforcing, automated, global, like each piece playing a small role. Oh yeah, now you have stable coins. Now you have, anybody can launch a meme coin. Now you have, you can do verifiable finance. You can do, prediction markets. Like, each piece kind of like coming to reality gives us more conviction that the crazier things that we dream up today, some of which will also come to reality. So excited to see that all play out.
Yeah, one step at a time, slowly, then suddenly. Sean.
As for me, I studied software engineering, but always a bit of a designer at heart. And I've been like really obsessed about like building infra and dev tools and taking something really complex and making it simple so that it can be adopted by more people. And my journey began when my company was bought by Docker, and that became Docker Desktop. And so even at Docker, back then, this was 2015, we were talking about like decentralized technology, like IPFS, and I'm like, that's pretty cool, and still looking for like a use case. But I then was discovered Ethereum back in like 2016, coincidentally. And it gave me the goosebumps because I thought crypto was like, like you said, Sreeram, like It's like speculative and it's just cryptocurrencies. But what Ethereum showed us is that with programmable trust, you can unlock more use cases, right? Like DeFi was being talked about, NFTs, and all of these use cases were sort of at the intersection between like money, like history, art, governance. There were like so many different ideas that were being talked about, and kind of felt like a renaissance times. And back in 2017, where visions are very big, and by then I knew I had to be part of this. Can't really miss out on this. So and I tried to build a couple of projects. And as per my design background, I noticed people really struggle getting started. Huge user drop-offs, very complex like concepts. So the problem that stood out was onboarding. So I started Magic back in 2018, which is more than 7 years ago, being the first ever embedded wallet in which you can log in and create a wallet with email, social login, SMS, while making sure it's like trust minimized at the same time. And to date, onboarded over 50 million wallets, and working with some of the top apps like Polymarket, Helium, companies that have stood the test of time since the early days, which is pretty rare. And now I think I'm noticing that there's a lot of movement on the AI side, right? People developing capabilities at a ever rapidly increasing rate, and I do see that it's inevitable that we're going to be able to automate away money, and a lot of people were focused on capability, while I do notice there's a lot of gaps just in terms of trust and verifiability and security. So that's what inspired us to build Newton, right? Which is a guardrails and protocols that you can define for an autonomous agent so that it follows your instructions and can prove it. So kind of enabling the secure autopilot, right, for crypto. So that's
awesome.
Story on how I got here.
That was awesome. I appreciate the context. That's actually a good segue into what I wanted to get into, which is we talk about verifiable AI, right, and verifiable agents, but let's unpack what that actually means to both of you. So, Sreeram, how have you thought about just how, I guess, agents and AI has evolved, and where do you see it going?
Yeah. I think one way to think about like where the intersection of this AI and crypto would lie is as you place these intelligences more and more central in our life, right? So you have these new capabilities, and you have to give them more and more agency, autonomy for them to be useful. But when you think of delegating some action to somebody, you think of a few dimensions. You think of, hey, am I delegating to somebody intelligent is an important thing, but it's equally important that are they trustworthy? Maybe more important, like Naval has this like three things that you look for in an employee, right? High energy, high intelligence, and high integrity, right? So trust is an equal important thing, because otherwise you're just like a highly motivated, smart crook is not what you want. It's just like completely the opposite of what you want. So that's the same thing I think applies to AI, right? So as you want to delegate more agency to these things, and how do you build trust in an AI? And usually we build trust in complex human institutions. And if there was a way to build trust natively in digital technology, that's what crypto is, right? So it's just algorithms, incentives, cryptography, like consensus, all these different protocols that you can actually bring together to build trustworthy systems, verifiable systems. So I think there is a huge matching. It's like a match made in heaven. Another way of thinking about it is AI is programmable intelligence, right? So intelligence became digital, intelligence became programmable, and crypto is institutions become programmable, right? Like you have the institution of money, you have the institution of like a democracy, you have institution of a government, you have institution of audits. Like all of these things become programmatic. Like this is like the only thing that can, keep AI in aligned and in check is digital institutions. Only they can keep up with the rate of change and speed that these AIs are evolving at. If you look at it, this is actually like a big discussion. Like, for example, the philosophical rift in Silicon Valley was like, EAC, like, we should go as fast as possible, as accelerated as possible, versus the EA, which is like, hey, we need to worry about safety and everything. But the solution to safety was like, hey, let's go to the government to like help solve our safety problems. But maybe like we should just build technology to solve the coordination problem. So you identify a coordination problem, because the only old technology of coordination was like, democracy and governments. But we think of crypto as the upgraded technology of coordination. So it should obviously solve like AI coordination problems using digital coordination technologies like crypto. So that's, I think, like the meta view. Like we can go into the specifics of why, what these things are, but I think that's sets the context for it.
The line that you said of the upgrade of the Constitution, I think if you want to talk about that for a little bit, I think that's pretty interesting framing as well.
Yeah, like this is this is an anecdote from like a dinner I had with U.S. congressmen and like a few crypto founders. I went around the table asking like, hey, why are you in crypto? What are you in this for? And everybody's like, hey, we need to upgrade the financial system. It's like a dinosaur. Like, we can't trust the government to do like, manage inflation, all these things, which we all causes we know and love. But when it came to me, like my answer was like, crypto is the greatest upgrade to human civilization since the Constitution. Crypto is the greatest upgrade to human civilization since the Constitution. And everybody's like, what kind of a crazy person are you sitting here?
No, I see it, man.
And but this is what pretty much everybody in 2018 Ethereum believed. Like this is why we all joined. Like this is why the three of us are here.
DAOs and all that,
yeah, the whole thing. It's just like people ran into all kinds of practical problems on this project, and either like recalibrated the ambition to, okay, let me just like solve lending, and I can make good money around that, or like launch a pump fund clone. But there is just that's the thing that motivates me and us here, is that the idea that coordination mechanisms, if you look at societies, they're made of innovation mechanisms. Anybody can come up with new ideas, goods and services, and trade with each other. This is the free market layer of society. And what technology does is automatically accelerate the free market, because it's just free agents, right? Give them like a bicycle, they're going to ride faster. Give them an aeroplane, they're going to go faster. Give them an AI, they're going to like do their trades faster. They're just going to do it. The other layer of society is coordination, right? It's the government, it's money, it is accounting, it is trust, audits. It's like the press and news media, and like all these institutions that are emergent human institutions, which is what like where all the coordination happens. And those are stuck in 200-year-old technologies. The C Corp, the like everything around that is all stuck in 200-year-old technologies. And what has been the role of like technology to accelerate and improve, like money, government, media, all these things? I think that's what crypto is, and I think that's why I think it's a huge new unlock. So as we were like expanding out on this thesis and trying to find out like what are the practical missing pieces that we need to build, we found like the one where this hits the hardest is AI, because it's a new context, right? Saying I can build better social media networks on blockchain, right? It's possible, and people are trying to do it, and we want to work with them. But when the context is new, the incumbents are just forming. Like, you can actually build the best AI systems, could be verifiable. The best trading agents could be verifiable. The best. So there is an opportunity for us to kind of like front run rather than catch up. So that's what makes it super exciting here.
Yeah, building the ark before the flood.
That's a beautiful
Yeah.
quote. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally giving me the goosebumps again. And so I read this this book called the Fourth Turning. So about every seculum, a human lifespan, the institutional trust collapses, right? And I do think that crypto and blockchain, it's almost like this emergent property, emergent technology that's going to address this trust collapse problem in like a highly efficient way, with code. Like, anyone can do it. I think when it comes to AI, it's really important to sort of, yeah, like you said, building from scratch a bit in this new context, and minimizing trust while you use AI, and build on top of just proving the what, right? Because blockchain still shows you like what happened, right? But because AI is supposed to be autonomous, it's actually really important to prove the why, like why they took certain actions. It's also really important, like why they did this, why they follow certain rules, and they follow these policies that you define, even though it executed as expected. And I think it's not the agent cannot do certain things that's blocking every user from adopting. Is actually the trust piece. Because I go out there and talk to anyone on the street, why you're not using agent to manage your money? They say, I'm scared, like they're gonna run away with it or do something crazy. So yeah, 100%.
So one comment there is, like, actually, I think of this exact same problem happened in 1996 to 98 when people had to put their credit card on the internet, right? Like, it's just like I've been told forever, don't show your credit card number to anybody. And then now you're telling me I just put it into this website? Like, are you crazy or what? Like, what is this thing? And so I think those kinds of so there is a moment there for, I think what happened was things like PayPal, which could do risk management better, and said, hey, if you lose your money, I'm going to insure you. I'm going to give it back to you. I'm going to do like those kinds of things. If we can help build as like a crypto ecosystem, the mental bar to like trust goes down, like the barrier to trust goes down, because hey, I can verify that this is specifically the code that's running. Second, I can verify that if it did something like out of bounds, then I'm going to get insured in this way, and so on. So I think bringing those technologies together is super powerful.
Yeah, well, so great.
One question that I've been thinking about is like, what pain points have we thought of that are making developers sort of struggle in building the next generation of applications, right? But in order for them to even learn about this design space, right, that's like a step in and of itself. So how are you thinking about maybe like distilling that down into, I don't know, like more, I guess, concrete stories of like, hey, like Sean, you just mentioned that, like, the user is scared of like just handing over their keys because the agent's going to run away, right?
Yeah.
Right now, because we have these like AI tools and capabilities, everyone's thinking that, hey, AI is going to like make us build apps a lot easier, right? But AI still has a trust problem, right? And crypto gives us this mechanism of instilling trust in like a very verifiable way, but we're having a hard time building apps on top of crypto, right? So Sreeram and I and the rest of the team have been thinking about, it's like, how did these two kind of come together? And that's sort of how you end up framing it. Crypto solves the trust problem and it has an apps problem, and AI solves the apps problem, and it has a trust problem, right? So taking that and like sort of running with it, maybe Sean, it would be good if you can speak on how you're focusing, like specifically on the near term future and what you want, like what you want to build for Magic, and like what vision you're trying to, I guess, materialize.
I would say giving users an easy wallet, that's like the first step, right? That's like democratizing access, right, in this overall picture. And then not only you're giving these wallets and generating them for end users, but also for like AI agents potentially as well. Most AI agents in crypto today have like private key in an environment variable or like on a text file stored somewhere, which is super scary. And I think I think we're currently kind of stuck in this dApp concept, right? That was started like years ago, where you build this like full stack front end, talks to EVM, and just talks to one blockchain, and that app does something. There's like, you can replicate the same use case cross chains, right? Across different protocols. There's like different UI skin for the same thing across different chains. And I felt like where AI can come in is to really aggregate these use cases, right? Like, oh, I want to do lending. Like it goes out and seeks out the best options and kind of finds you the best option based on your preferences. And I think there's a lot of gaps in tooling out there that allows this to happen. There's like some like early like agent SDKs or like MCP servers, but still a lot of them assumes like an EOA wallet format. It assumes kind of a single chain experience. I do think that there's like a long way to go there to have the right tooling. But I do see a future where there's essentially 3 types of applications in crypto. Like you're gonna have like apps with a social component, right? You're gonna have apps with like financial rails, like things that do finance. And then also there will be like, I don't know, maybe even like billions or trillions of agents that's just doing specific use cases. And then you can have one agent that's like the coordinator that knows some other set of agents. And then basically to the end user, they don't have to know any complexity about how to interact with crypto. They just type in a simple command, right? And then and then the agent will go out and figure things out for you and all the routing. So right. That's the vision I see, and I think there needs to be better tooling for like agent development in this sense, and that goes beyond just like LLM, the user chatting with it, but also kind of using LLM for automation on the developer's end as well. Yeah.
Right. That reminds me of this way of thinking that Sreeram, I think you've been talking about, which is the different classifications of agents, right? One is like personal, one is like community-based or sovereign, right? There's that, which I think would be interesting for you to touch on, but also how with EigenCloud, we're also touching on making verifiability more convenient to tap into by making the programmability of this trust more expressive, essentially. So maybe you can touch on those too.
Yeah. Like one way to like start this conversation is like, if I want to make an agent verifiable, right? Like what's the simplest or like the most powerful way that you can do it? Suppose I could somehow write an agent as a smart contract, like just put it on our Ethereum, right? Then the agent keeps running. You can't get rugged. You know the code. It's just going to do the thing that it says it does, and then it executes correctly. So smart contracts are kind of like the gold standard for verifiability, unstoppability, that it does what it says it does, and nobody can stop you from doing it. That's a huge like thing that blockchains have constructed, but they are very limited in programmability and expressivity, right? So I can't just take an AI agent and write a smart contract, right? Like it has to run using GPUs. It can't run on a laptop. It has to run on like a different kind of code base, whether it's PyTorch or TensorFlow or other frameworks. You don't want to run it on like EVM or Rust or something. Like it's just not conducive. It has to do inherently parallel processing. All these things essentially make it impossible for existing crypto rails to accommodate agents. So just like the idea of smart contracts was a huge leap forward for the industry, right? It's like, oh, you have this notion of a smart contract and you write a code in it and it just like keeps running. Now you can ask, what if I can just take a piece of code that wouldn't fit into an existing VM or something, but I can just like ask that piece of code to run as a container, right? Container is this just packaged abstraction of code that you can put it on like a cloud or somewhere to go and run. But if I can run a container in the same level of verifiability and unstoppability that a smart contract has, then suddenly like the set of things you can do with it explodes, because the superpower of a smart contract is you don't need to trust it. It's just going to do the thing that it says it does. So you can just put money into it. It's a little bit of a miracle. Like, we at Eigen Layer, we've kind of gotten used to like, oh, we have $20 billion of like value sitting on top of this contract. It's insanity, right? Like nobody is going to give me or Nima like, hey, just like keep this 20 billion in the bank. But what's happening is that it's a smart contract, right? Like that none of us can change, or like it has all these governance processes. It's a very robust, rigid instrument, and it kind of like once it's there and people trust it, it can just carry infinite value. Like you can put $1 trillion on the EigenLayer protocol, and it just like works. And that's an amazing kind of invention. And if we could endow that kind of a trust into an agent, and like what frameworks can we build? The frameworks should be something like, hey, I write the portion of an app as a smart contract, only the ones that move the tokens around. We call this token logic, right? The token logic is on chain, but the app logic, I don't want to write it on chain, but I write it as a container. But this container has the same grade of trust that an on-chain contract has, that it runs verifiably, it comes back, it brings the results back to the chain, and then it executes on-chain actions. Now that would be super cool. And that's like our goal at EigenCloud. In fact, like why we came up with this concept is because we found this gap between what you can do on the cloud is you can write a container and upload it, and you can choose the hardware on which it has to run. You can choose the kind of like software you want to use. You can choose interfaces, all these things. But we want to bring the same level of programmability with crypto trust, not with, hey, trust me, bro, right? Which is what the whole enterprise is seeking to avoid. So that's the exciting new like developer unlock that we're going towards. Nima also alluded to this, like, okay, suppose you have this unlock. Do you want every agent to be run like this, or are there like categories of agents? And Sean had a beautiful classification based on application domain and levels of coordination that you can bring into it. There is another way to think about it, which is it a single player game? Is it a multiplayer agent, or we even have a zero player agent? Okay, so what's a single player agent is, I need an agent to do some action for just me, right? Like I need an agent to transcribe this live stream. Do I need this to be verifiable? No, maybe I just need to run it on my laptop and then I'm done. It's verifiable because I'm running it. So I'm like, I don't need to trust anybody else. So personal agents, right? Which you can just like, single player, I can just take care of it myself. But when an agent is arbitrating something between, let's say it's Sean and I are debating whether AI is good or super good. I think that's only a difference of opinion. Maybe not even that. But there's an AI that's judging this debate. We want that AI to be, am I going to run it? Are you going to run it? Are you going to trust me that I run it correctly? Or Nima going to run it? Nima seems like from Eigen, so maybe so these problems don't exist when you can just have an AI be verifiable. And this is because it's a multiplayer game, right? Like there are many players and there's no nominal trust party to run it. If it's a single player, that player is the trust party to run it. So you don't need to worry about it. And then we have these crazy things we call zero player agents. So a zero player agent is what we call a sovereign agent. is an agent that's not working for Sean or Nima or Sreeram. It's too cool to work for any of us. It's just doing its own thing, right? Like it's an agent that has its own money, does its own thing. Maybe it's teaching classes on a side, or like selling services on Fiverr, or doing other myriad activities to like help the economy, and it's just like its own thing. And so that's a zero player agent. Now that agent needs to be run in a unstoppable manner. It needs to hold property that it owns, right?
Mhm.
So if you think of what a smart contract is smart contract is a piece of code or a program that owns a piece of property, right? It's a piece of program owning a piece of property, right? That's what a smart contract is. What if an AI agent can own a piece of property just autonomously on a blockchain? Like that can be huge. So that's what we call a sovereign agent. And so sovereign agent needs both the verifiability of these systems, but also the full unstoppability. It's just like its own thing. Like it's not depending on any of us. So our thesis is personal agents or for single player agents don't really need the full trust properties of blockchains, but multiplayer agents and zero player agents, both of them need this. And so our emphasis is right. The zero player agent is a little bit sci-fi in the future,
Yeah.
but the multiplayer agent is like very much proximate, and like we can do a lot of fun stuff with that.
Yeah, that's a very cool framing. The 0 player, 1 player, multiplayer. I'm gonna use that. So yeah, like it's very interesting that we kind of came to a similar realization from like the wallet perspective, where we try to give like smart wallets. That's like a smart contract based wallet for agents, and then like with session keys, and then there's like permissions. But it's like very limited, like what the on-chain version of the policy can do, compared to like if you bring that off-chain, like you'll be able to feed it like off-chain data. Like the agent can only do certain things if like some real-time market thing happen, right? Or like a sentiment is bullish or volatility is low. Like you can't really do that easily, like with the on-chain sort of smart contract-based approach. So we think that like the policies are like these new kind of constitutions, right? In a way, and you're writing law for AI agents that's highly expressive and it's declarative, easy to verify. So I think that's I think where it's at before we can really enable agent to go on full autopilot without like a person right in the middle, because that's not like a real agent, and we're not really getting all the benefits from that automation.
Sean, one thing that I was curious about and how you guys have been thinking about smart wallets and how they're evolving with policies, with permissions, etc., is the world's a dynamic place, right? The circumstances like change all the time, and like things just shift. Even the Constitution like has amendments, right? So, do you ever foresee where the policies themselves would just effectively be AI in some shape or form, and they just like, they're adaptable, they're like malleable to the set of circumstances that like it's supposed to be serving its set of stakeholders, right? I know that's like a little bit too far-fetched, but I think that's sort of like what AI is poised to get people to think about. It's you're shifting away from this like concept of like things necessarily being static, right? How do systems basically adapt to serve their users, whatever that actually ends up meaning?
Yeah, so actually, if you think about it, it's actually just writing code, or like using AI to write code, using AI to write like a nice piece of content, right, that you can publish. And I think, they can definitely write policies too. In fact, let's say if we use some kind of maybe like a policy programming language like Rego, right, that's popular in infra, like you can actually just write a policy using AI. Maybe it will catch some blind spots that I didn't catch like myself. And so I think eventually, it gets more meta than just like a person in the policies, but a person assisted by agent, or just an agent, or a group of agents that's responsible for a different set of things and responsibilities. coming
Right.
together, right, and create it. So yeah, I definitely see it's limitless in terms of that.
And the reason I asked this is because like you're seeing AI being effectively like weaponized in one way or another to just like put a huge amount of spam and like slop on the internet, right? And
Yeah.
that's just like for maybe entertainment purposes, and the UX of these like platforms is being affected, but it could also be deployed in like ways that it can socially engineer other agents and people to like, you know, drain funds and things like that, right? So at the end of the day, what you actually probably want is however you deploy these AI systems that even write the policies for you, right? You probably want to enforce alignment in some kind of way, right? And if your sort of AI is rooted in this like crypto anchored trust mechanism way, that it's going to be aligned to effectively all your preferences, right? That's directionally, I think, an interesting way of like thinking about how you can counter some of maybe the way AI can be like weaponized. So just, yeah, something to think about.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, there's already like these context manipulation attacks and exposing secrets. Yeah, so I think, yeah, there's gonna be a time where people realize that it's a big problem.
And maybe just to go into the nuance a little bit here, so that folks listening can really appreciate the gravity like of what's happening. You know, Sreeram, you mentioned prediction markets, right, as like a prominent example, and Sean, you're familiar probably more than most with how they ended up becoming what they, you enabled one of the largest ones. So what is happening currently in the market and like technology, so to speak, to make these things that we're talking about, these phenomena, like possible, like in 2025 and going into like the next few years? I'm sure if you want to take a stab at that.
Yeah. What is happening? I think like in the intersection of crypto and AI, we have like a bunch of related technologies that people are building, right? One is agent stacks that can actually talk to the chain, right? So it's basically like, hey, I'm running an agent stack. This just needs some hook into a chain to like take actions, move money around, or, you know, do trades. Like when you think of like an agent is just an AI model with an action space, right? Some kind of tool calls that it can do. And those tools and actions being crypto oriented, like that's one kind of thing. We saw Eliza, like other stacks, virtuals, like trying to build some of that. And initially the version was like in true crypto fashion, like or throw a coin on top of one of these things with some kind of personality, and then like maybe it goes viral, right? So that's what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
But the technology unlock was agents with crypto action space, right? So that's like the simplest way to think about it. Then another like stream of work is you can think of the GPU markets, right? So people can go and now like access GPUs. I need to go to like some cloud provider, but can I just go to like a decentralized nodes? You know, people have GPUs, part-time or like semi-professional operators who have GPUs. I can go and like borrow from them. So that's another like category of things that showed up. There's Akash, there's like Render, there is Aether. Aether is building on Eigenlayer. So these are like examples of GPU marketplaces, right? So which are like you can kind of like, that's another category that you see inside that. The third category, which is where I place ourselves and EigenCloud, is the technologies to make these verifiable, right? So you see like, oh, this agent did this action, and like, you know, it's verifiable on chain that this code hash, this agent with this prompt took this action. And it's only those things that are going to be permitted to move my money or like some downstream actions. I think that category is just getting started. Like there is no like big success yet in that thing. There are other related allied sets of things that are going on. Like for example, Sentient is trying to build models which are sensitive to community input, right? So how do you align like a model to like community inputs? Like that's a kind of generic alignment problem in AI. And so you see that inside crypto. Outside in AI land, you see things like people starting to wake up to insurance, underwriting, like these kinds of things becoming important. And so I think the pieces are just kind of like getting ready. Initial iterations, people tried something. There's the other thing, other examples I forgot is the use crypto to incentivize open source model development, right? BitTensor is a big category example here. Oh, just like, crypto's tokens. Tokens means like you can spend the tokens in like pursuit of some public good. And that could be like go build models. And so those are the kind of like many strains, Noose research, like other people doing that. So Jensen doing decentralized federated training, all these things like in that direction. So that's the category space. And I think still, if you go and ask somebody outside in AI why they should pay attention to crypto, you just get a blank cold stab.
I live in Bay Area, and I've been spreading the gospel. But yeah, I do get
Nice.
the
We need to get Sean on more stages to like spread the gospel. I think that moment of like, is gonna be like huge. If I think like the two things I see which hit, I mean, if any of the like common funded open source models break state of the art, then you will see that. But that's a very high bar, right? Like you're competing with like Chinese state funded or like, Saudi funded giants here. So it's not easy to compete with them. The thing is, I think like verifiability is like, I think one of the angles that kind of immediately people I think can understand. So I think the technology is just like right time to do that.
I think the precedents that have been set, like Uniswap, right, having facilitated 3+ trillion of exchange volume, right, that really signifies what sort of capital movement actually looks like on chain. And we're not even talking about all the other the DeFi protocols, right? And even the recent bills that have been passed, right, around like stablecoin adoption and clarity, right? The amount of interest, institutional RWAs, et cetera, coming on chain and bringing liquidity, and you just like throwing intelligence on chain in the form of these agents, capital allocation is just gonna be completely rewritten. And it's like no matter how much we say it, I think it's still gonna be an understatement for how crazy it'll actually end up being. And Sean, like this is like what you guys are specifically focused on initially, and then expand out from here, right? In terms of what the first couple agents that you guys have built, but I'll let you kind of touch on how you see this like phenomenon, like markets and technology, et cetera, are evolving.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's really about allowing like automated strategy to happen in a very secure way, from like a wallet player's perspective, right? It's like we can create these accounts or vaults, right, where users can deposit their funds in, and then they know verifiably, right, that the agent can only perform certain actions within that vault, right? And to be able to demonstrate this experience, through like a automated marketplace, right, that we're building, where users can pick and choose different strategies, and then it could be DCA, right? It could be something more complex, and it'll be fun to kind of see how like over time which one of these strategies perform the best. And I think that's going to be like the first step to stay close to like the crypto core audience, right? As a way to grow and experiment and test the policy engine, the vault, and the verifiable infrastructure underneath, and then kind of expand to bigger things, right? Like when other people sees the benefit, maybe you can have like, the wallet can only perform certain action if it's like compliant, right? Or like KYC, and that's when like the institutions come in on that front. And then I think this goes to, if we were to kind of expand on this, we're one of the core values, at least I think of crypto, is to bring more agency, right, to individuals through like innovating on trust and money. And I think AI is bringing also that agency, right? And I'm really happy to see like open source models being created. But a lot of the times you still have to like run it locally, which is like pretty limited. and it sort of democratizes that like cognition, right, or reasoning, where like let's say a super centralized company backed by the state is like 10 out of 10.
Mhm.
At least get to a 7, not like
Yeah.
everyone else is the 3. I think that's really, really important, is to close in on that gap, but also like innovating on like privacy and security, right, around these models. So like, let's say if I'm running this open source model that's really complex and advanced, like I could just be running a shit model right behind the scenes and claiming it is.
Yeah.
So you can't really verify that. So I could even see some kind of a KYA, know your agent, in the future, right? That's revolve around verifiability. So you can
Right.
only trust certain agent to do like certain tasks, right?
Right.
Based on their model. So I do see that kind of extrapolating to more scenarios in the future.
Right. The more you have confidence in an agent doing a set of specific tasks, the more you end up trusting it effectively, and you give it a reputation profile, and then you kind of like expand its capabilities incrementally, and you can build trust even more so over time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so interesting how, if you recall a few years back, the GameStop situation and Robinhood, right? And then now the pendulum has swung a little bit, where Robinhood is like going into and using like leveraging blockchain technology in order to tap into this agency, in order to tap into like on-chain like liquidity amplification, and just bringing trust verifiably to the users who are using the system. So it's super cool. And Sreeram, one of the things that I think, as you were mentioning, the technologies that are just enabling these behaviors, these agents, imagine you have trillions of them, right? But for the data that they're processing, that they're operating on, right, they're going to need some kind of audit trail in order for you to verify them. So you need an extremely hyperscale DA solution, right? And like that's sort of like what we're building, and I think we're just getting started. So that's like a critical component of all these systems that can get built on top of it.
Absolutely. Just like adding one point there is, when people think of agents coming on chain, like they are thinking of agents are just doing trades and they're going to do a lot of trades. So it's going to be like trillions of agents doing trades, and it's the trade volume that they're counting. But I think what Nima is talking about is something different. It's about the prompt that went in, the reasoning that went out, and like the trace of the kind of like the model logs, so to say. So that's how you know, like that, this is why we can trust the Ethereum blockchain, right? Because the inputs, the computation, the outputs. It's the same thing for any of these complex AI. So when you think about that, the throughput scale that you need to actually like to write the data that is like going in and out of these models is a completely different scale compared to just like just a trace of transactions. So I think that's a huge new like unlock. That's one of the things, Sean, like the funny thing is inside our team, I've been saying like we need to build to 1 terabytes per second these things. And so what happened is last September, we were at 15 megabytes per second on mainnet. And even inside the team, like the team that actually built DA, the context of like, is 15 a lot or 15 is less, or like, it was only like, or maybe it's more than Ethereum, like that kind of scale was there. But we did an experiment called All Chains Fit on EigenDA, which basically we just crawl the data from every blockchain. Like this is Bitcoin, it's Ethereum, it's Solana, it's Base, it's Celestia, it's everything. Like just crawl all the blocks and then write it real time into EigenDA. And the amazing thing was like I'd only used 50% of the EigenDA throughput at that time. And so I was like, wow, see, it's amazing how much throughput we have. And then I go back to our team and team's like, wow, this is amazing. But Sreeram, why do you keep pushing us to build more throughput? It makes no sense. All chains already fit on EigenDA. Let's go just find those chains. and then it took us like, a couple of months to explain and show like, if you just have like 2 agents writing data to EigenDA, it'll already be full. So the scale of what an agent is versus the scale of what like the systems are handling today is just orders of magnitude off.
Mhm.
Right.
And so like building for that, so we now have 50 megabytes per second on mainnet. We just continue scaling that. So it's been part of like what we've been doing at Eigen is like what are these like underlying infra layers, right? And it's very initially non-sexy. It's just boring like plumbing work to say, okay, you have a staking layer, you have a slashing ability, you have redistribution ability, you have a data availability layer which you can slam more and more stuff on. We're building this thing called Eigen Verify, which is a fraud verification layer. Okay, so I run an agent and then like I claim some result and it turns out to be wrong. Somebody needs to re-execute it and then check that it happened correctly. So right now you have to write these on-chain fraud proofs, which are very complex and take 5 years to do. Instead, can you write those fraud proofs themselves off-chain, but have like a decentralized verifiable network, bring it back in? So that's Eigen Verify. So all these pieces, which are like painstaking, boring, kind of like infra things, but the magic, no pun intended, shows up when you actually like build an experience around these like underlying pieces. And I think that's what we're very excited about, like showcasing and because at the end, like this is all about providing more power to the users,
Mhm.
more uh, mechanisms for people to come and coordinate better without needing to trust each other, without
Mhm.
the possibility of getting rugged. I think that's what we're here for. And so we can build all the infra we want if we don't have like cool experiences that actually are useful, valuable for users, is not interesting. So we're super excited to like see how you're
Yeah.
going to bring a lot
Yeah.
of these things, Sean, to market. So yeah, excited and looking forward to it.
Super excited. Like the artists needs the best tools, the best
Yeah.
infrastructure. We're not gonna build our own paintbrush, right?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe on that note, to close it off here, a question for both of you. How should founders think about building through the hype and with purpose?
Whoa, that's a hard question. Built through hype with purpose. I think when hype exists, hype has this like double-edged sword, right? Like we talk inside our team last January to April last year, we were at the highs, and then like so the token launch, community sentiment. The way hype works is it can turn as fast against you as it turns towards you. So just like kind of like be cognizant of it. For some of the young people, like they have not seen other cycles. They think this is the kind of like
Mhm.
norm. And I think even just knowing, for example, that 6 years back, if you worked on AI, people would think you're a crackpot or like you didn't find another job or something like that. People don't know that, right? Like the level of how much these things change and rotate. I think keeping that context and perspective. So, okay, so if the things are rotating and changing, why am I doing what I'm doing? I'm doing what I'm doing because it adds in this way to like, to add value to humans in some way, right? And knowing what it is, and then you iterate on the local thing. So my thesis there is the purpose defines your long-term North Star, and then your immediate actions are like gradients, like steps
Mhm.
towards that. And when you're taking steps, of course you want to ride on hype if you have hype. Of course you want to kind of like hedge against like failing in the short term if you can, but they're all like oriented towards a clear North Star of, okay, that's the outcome that we want. And when you have that long-term North Star, the thing that it does is if you fail, if somebody else does the next thing that we want to do, we would use it, because we are not just doing that thing, we're doing that other thing which is so far out that you can actually like add on, like, or build the next thing, right? So you want to accelerate human coordination. Somebody builds a better DA, we just use it, right? We don't need to be the ones building the best DA. We can use the better DA to build a better compute. If you had somebody at better compute, we build better inference. If you had better inference, you go build better apps. If you had better apps, you get more users. You just like keep going all the way out. So that's that's my take on that. Is you have a long-term North Star, then you kind of adapt to local timing to see, oh yeah, this one's going to work today, but I can't bring medical insurance on chain today and do all adjudication and claims on chain, which I'd love to do. I can't bring income shares on chain and fund education all around the world today. We have no place, or the timing is not yet there. Can we just do income shares for AI agents and then or for game streamers? Something just proximal, interesting, useful, fun today, which will lead to these things in the long term.
Yeah, well said. I have something pretty similar, and I would say after building for over 7 years in crypto, I've seen many cycles, and only purpose gets you through these cycles in the longer run, and it's very clear who's still building, who's not still building, and I think a lot of people associate hype as a bad thing. It's got a little bit of a negative connotation, but I actually see it as almost like an energy source, right? That you're fortunate enough to have, like a wave, right? And I think the art is being able to surf this wave while not losing your direction, what your North Star is, and get to shoehorn into exactly what this hype is. You want to tell a story and you want to draw the connection, how this new wave can play into your core vision, right, or thesis or direction. And so I think building in crypto, it's kind of like surfing, where you spot the waves early, you build your board and you paddle as hard as you can. And when it comes, you ride it with everything you got, right? And while you're riding, you're watching out for the next wave. And sometimes it's I also have this battlefield analogy, where it's okay, fog of war, I don't know what's going on. You have to capture something you see first, a high vantage point. Then you unlock more fog of war, and so and you see there. So it's always you have the objective of winning, in the long run, but you're being very flexible when you're navigating the individual battles. So yeah, I think the best founders are both committed, right, and flexible at the same time.
Love it.
Wow, well said, both of you.
Love it.
Okay. Well, on that note, yeah, I think that's a good place to wrap it up. So I appreciate both of your time, and yeah, this was fun. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Sean. Thanks so much, Nima. Absolutely love this.
Same.
Bye.